Thank you. Yes, as Hans said, I am a cartographer for Green Trails Maps, and it's very important to note that I am the greenest cartographer, pun intended, only a year, and I'm very excited to be on the team. It's a very small and humble team. To tell you how small, it's myself, the newest, and Chuck, our senior cartographer, who is here. And that's it. That's the only people making the maps, and our very generous CEO, Alan Coburn. And it's a very small family, as he would like to call it. Now, just a little bit of information about Green Trails Maps. Green Trails was founded in 1973. Green Trails is also a Seattle-based company, so I've been coming to NACIS conferences for maybe 3 or 4 years now, and I hadn't heard about Green Trails until the day Alan approached me about working with them. So when I found out that NACIS was going to be in Tacoma, I got very excited and really convinced Alan to let me speak and tell you a little bit today about the products, maybe a bit about our process, and as well as what's new with Green Trails. You'll be happy to know that we are, in fact, the leading brand of trail maps in definitely the Washington area and now becoming in the Pacific Northwest region. Now, here's a map of so the areas that we have maps in, not just in Washington, but it starts to radiate out into British Columbia. We also have in Oregon, California, Nevada, Arizona, and we do have one in New York, all the way on the other side. And it made sense to have me on the team since I do live in Oregon, so I will be taking care of most of the Oregon projects. Now, to give you a bit more detail about the products that we have within each state and some of the top sellers, in Washington we have Mount Rainier, we have North Cascades, which I do have right here, and Chuck will have some freebies to give out at the end of the talk if you're interested. And this is actually the most current, the newest edition of a Green Trails map that has been published recently, so hot off the press, really. Mount St. Helens and Olympic Mountains. Within British Columbia, we do have a Whistler, British Columbia map. As we move south into my neck of the woods in the Oregon region, we have the Columbia River Gorge, we have Mount Hood, we have Forest Park in Portland, and we have the Wallowa Mountains, as well as a Bend map. As we go to where I was born and raised in California, we do have Big Sur map, which is really one of our best maps around in that area, a Santa Cruz map, as well as a Golden Gate and Mount Tamalpais. I have personal experiences at Mount Tam, so I was really excited to see that Green Trails had one. As we push out away from the West Coast, we do have our Nevada as well as our Arizona maps, and a couple of the top sellers are our Red Rock Canyon map, our Charleston Peak map, and then in Arizona we have a Flagstaff, Sedona Red Rock County, a country, and Santa Catalina Mountains. That is, I hear, one of our best sellers in that area. Now, we don't just sell one product. We have 3 maps that we provide for our customers. So the first, and I believe this was the first Green Trails maps that were produced, are our 15-minute USGS style quadrangle maps. And these are at 12 by 18 inches. The material is a very lightweight, economical paper. It is not waterproof, but we do sell a vinyl envelope so you can keep all of your maps in, and they're very handy for us in the field. All of these maps are at a scale of 1 to 69.5, and the scope for these maps only includes within the Washington and Oregon Cascade region. Now these maps are revised kind of on a need basis, but around 2 to 5 years. They're all ground truthed, and all of our new revisions, when we do touch them, we do now add shaded relief. Before we were just sticking with the USGS style topo lines, but we've got some exaggeration in there now. Moving on to the next series, we have our S series maps. S stands for special, and they really are. These are probably our best-selling maps that we have, and we have the most of them. Our S series is 18 by 24 inches. The material is actually a waterproof polyart 61, and that's not just waterproof, tear-resistant, mud-proof, so also perfect in the field. I got a compliment when I was out in the field that someone took theirs on a marathon run and they dropped it and it got crumpled up and they had to stick it back in their pocket, and it's fine, and it has just the same amount of life and vigor afterwards, and if not more character, I'd say. The revision cycle for these is 3 to 5 years, and these scope from, we have the Washington, Oregon, California, and much, much more, and expanding even more so. These are all ground truths. We do spend a lot of time on these, and we get a lot of detail, and they really are jam-packed with information, and all of it is field tested. Our slogan for this is boots on the ground accuracy, and boy, did we get our boots in there, real muddy. We do have our SX series, special, and X stands for extra large. So these are at 22.5 by 30 inches. The material is the same, waterproof. The scale is going to vary. We really do cater them to the area. So if it's a pretty big park, we might zoom out and have a lot more insets instead. But some of the favorites really are some of the larger scale maps. The scope, same thing, Washington, Oregon, and far more. Similar revision cycle, and we do ground truth these as well. Now, to the most grueling and really boring part of the job is all the field work. It's quite terrible. It wouldn't be the business and pleasure of mapping session if I didn't talk about probably one of the best parts of trail mapping, and that's actually getting out on the trail. It is very important that the cartographers get out in the field, though we do have a lot to capture. So it's really nice having my partner in crime, Claire, who's not just my partner but also my trail mapping partner, and I know Chuck has Tanya as well. And great experiences out there, and it really gives you a more tactile sense of the place that you're mapping. And after working with this company for a year, I couldn't possibly make a map and not go see the place first. Just small details like, should the campsite be on this side of the road? Is the trail sloshing through a river? And that's so important to dictate, and you really can't just leave that up to the user. You really want to give them some context yourself from being there. Now the projects I'm working on are far larger than I can possibly take care of myself. In fact, I separated my shoulder just a couple weeks ago, so I've pretty much been out and just sitting in my chair and doing the grad school thing. So we do have some field workers actually out in the field right now. Wendy, as we're speaking, is taking on Mount Jefferson to Mount Washington and Three Sisters area. She's a marathon runner, and she's awesome. She takes care of so many of these things and just blows through them faster than I could. And she averages something like 8, 10, 12 miles a day if she's out there for long extended periods. And she's awesome. She has a really cute puppo, and she brings her dog out on the field too. So she has just a drive that she uploads all of her photos, and I can see the cool things that she's doing, seeing like missing trailheads, broken down trees, and those are really important to note and give awareness to our users. I know Chuck also has some field workers working here in Washington at the moment too. So we have, in addition to just the 2 cartographers, we do have some fingerlings of field workers doing our bidding as they can. In addition to another trail mapper, we also have a great partner. We try to make book partners as much as possible. Craig Romano is a well-established author here in the Washington area and has some of the best-selling trail hiking and backpacking guides. So our relationship is very close-knit. He's really part of the Green Trails team, and so we promote his books on our maps when they coincide with a map product that is in his area, but then also he promotes Green Trails maps in his books, and they really go hand to hand because you can't have the type of detail of our maps within a book, and we also can't convey all the same amount of information that he has in his books on our maps. So he's a great person to have on the team. We do also have other partnerships and organizations that we work with, strictly in Washington: Mountains to Sound Greenway, the Washington State Trails Coalition, and Washington Trails Association. We actually sponsor these organizations, and in turn they give us a lot of feedback on our maps, and also they help us promote the product as well. And they really, they take a lot of pride in the trails that are around in their area, so this is also a great relationship to have. Specifically, my experience in the past year with Portland Parks and Recreation and Forest Park Conservancy, we've been updating our Forest Park map, and they've been incredible. When we do revisions, we don't necessarily have the funds to go out and map every single trail over again, and we usually don't have to because we collected all that data before. So instead, I brought our map to them, and they just marked it up. They spent weeks. They have people in the field already themselves, so they have all their trail maps, and they just uploaded it to OpenStreetMap, and they said, go take it, it's there for you to use, and left a ton of notes, things that myself and another group of people would have likely missed, so a few misspellings here and there too. So we're extremely grateful for partners like these because they make our job a lot easier, but they have a lot of stake in the map as well, so we usually point our users to them as well if they do have questions. Now, a few of the new things within Green Trails Maps. Me personally, I'm working on a few Oregon titles: Bull of the Woods Wilderness, Mount Jefferson, Mount Washington, Three Sisters Wilderness Area, what Wendy's helping me out with right now. I also got a chance to help revise a couple of maps: our Red Rock Canyon map, and our Mount Charleston Wilderness map is also up for revision as well. On top of that, we do have some very exciting news. We are now, Green Trails is now married. We got engaged a little while ago, and the ring has now been, the knot has been tied officially, and we are now associated with Mountaineers Books, a book publisher in Washington or in Seattle. And Green Trails Maps is growing, and with such growth, we don't have the capacity to do a lot of the heavy lifting within the company. So a partner like Mountaineers Books, they're going to take care of all of the distribution and the sales, getting us into areas that we may not have had the capacity to get into before. And it's going to be an incredible relationship. And it will give Chuck and I more time to actually work on the maps instead of getting them out to places that we would like them to be. And that's about it, and I definitely have time for questions. However, again, I'm the newest cartographer, so I'm going to default a lot of the questions to Chuck in the case that I don't actually know the answer. So thank you all.